background and your background. It's quite interesting, so I'm looking forward to hearing the details. But just to give a quick bio before we get started, Jamie is from Iowa.
Okay, let's play some damn shit.
And their 6 children live in Sacramento, California. He was a worship pastor for 25 years. And his dad was a pastor as well.
You
and his
slut
based
from
on
China!
basic life principles. Almost like you need a trigger warning for that these days. He was homeschooled for most of his childhood. He is the author of the upcoming book coming out early next year.
Yes.
Called Dear Evangelical, Sincere Questions from a Reluctant Deconstructionist. I'll have the link, the Amazon link beneath our video for that, so please go take a look and buy that. More information about what he's been thinking through in terms of that book is on our website, findinggoddespitereligions.com, and almostoccult.com. In addition to all that, Jamin, of course, with his worship background, he is an accomplished musician. He does teach piano on YouTube at Learn Piano Live. I'll have a link for that on the website beneath the video, so please go like and subscribe, especially if you're learning the piano and can glean from him there. Besides what I know about you so far, Jamin, what else can you tell us about yourself?
Well, this book kind of,
God fucking damn it.
I feel like it forced itself on me. I'm hoping that when I'm done with all the writings, I can get back to this other passion that I had of learning how to fly.
You
I took several flight lessons and then
suck my dick.
You ran out of money because that's a really expensive hobby. But that was a lot of fun. I was almost up to my solo flight last time I left off. So hopefully I'll get back to that.
Suck my motherfucking dick, bitch.
That's awesome. I'm jealous of that.
You
That's
suck
really
my
cool.
motherfucking
Where would you fly? Just locally in California,
suck
or
my
would you be
motherfucker.
flying
You suck
across
my
country?
motherfucking dick, bitch.
Just in the air. It's awesome to be up there.
You suck my motherfucking dick.
I imagine myself flying my kids to
Bitch, you suck
Disney.
my
That's
motherfucking dick, bitch.
I don't know. Just being there is cool.
That'd be really cool. I'm here just north of Atlanta, and every once in a while we'll catch a hot air balloon that's, in the evening just floating over.
Suck
Seems
my
like pretty cool.
Come on, fucking dick.
Well, I appreciate you introducing
suck my
yourself.
motherfucking
Obviously,
dick.
here's your story.
Suck my
I encourage
dick.
people to go back to the earliest days and kind of tell us where this started and the earliest memory you have. How did you get exposed to Christianity?
Yeah, man, that from the very beginning, before I was born, my dad got his first church, and so by the time I came along, he knew all of the right ways to raise kids, so I had a perfect childhood. There's not much to talk about.
Bitch, you suck my
I
motherfucking
accepted
dick.
Jesus into my heart at the age of 5, whatever that means, and like a good evangelical, I spent the rest of my life trying to recommit my life to God because I kept screwing it up. By nothing large, but I think most Christians live with a latent, residual guilt. They keep tracking down and going, well, maybe you're not really saved. Maybe you should just make your life to Christ. And then you go to camps and retreats and services, and they all encourage you, maybe you should recommit your life to Christ. Yeah, I should recommit my life to Christ. So I've been saved at least dozens of times.
You suck my motherfucking dick.
So yeah, that's. When did I invite Jesus in my heart?
Suck my motherfucking dick.
It started at age 5. And then I just kept trying. And then it's kind of funny just thinking about that experience because as a Christian, my experience was on one hand, I'm told you have to believe harder. You're already saved. And if you think you're not saved, then that's a lack of faith. So you need to just believe that you're saved. Believe harder. Okay, yeah, you I invite you to my heart. This is a done deal. I'm saved. I'm going to heaven. It's over, and now I can move on. And then you go back the next week, and they're like, "Have you ever sinned?" Well then, that sin is living with you. So you need to read your life. Oh yeah, I'm barely saved. I need to. So that back and forth is frustrating. So that's I think that's one of the things. There's a lot of them. That's one of the things, though, that as a Christian, looking back
suck my motherfucking dick
in the Evangelical Fundamentalist Church, that's one of the things that that was really frustrating, and I experienced that frustration, but living in it, I think like.
Suck my fucking
Not to be disrespectful to Christians, but it's much like I think living in an abusive relationship. Like while you're in it, you're just in it. Like this isn't weird. This is just life. This is the way that it goes. But then when you look back on it, like man, that was kind of messed up. That I was just constantly in this. I don't have enough faith to believe that I'm a Christian and also have enough faith to stop sinning, and it's just always back and forth, no matter what. It's always my fault. That's the only one consistent thing throughout my religious experience. Is everything that you're feeling is negative. It's not because you keep going to a service that tells you that you should feel negative. It's not that. It's your fault. So that's
true. The corollary that God's love is
out
unconditional, but it's got so many conditions, and it feels very true.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things like that where, and I'm now looking back, there's this whole list of them, and I tried to list them, look at them, not smart enough to remember all of them. There's a lot of things where, like, the things that we say as Christians are deeply anti-Christian, but you don't realize it until you, like, fully have permission to believe that thing. Like, currently, for me, like, God is everywhere. Like, that's what we say, but then we say that people have walked away from God. God's over there. Or like, you know, if you don't have the Bible, where's your moral compass? Well, if God is everywhere, like, you got the same Holy Spirit you had before. He's right there. He's fully accessible. So the God is everywhere thing. I'm sorry, what was yours again?
I was just saying that God loves you unconditionally, but there's so many conditions.
Right. Yep. Unconditional love. Like as a platitude, fully on board with that. But then, as you attend church, you realize, I'm not meeting the conditions of the unconditional love, and I feel terrible about that. And I think maybe that sentence might be the summary of most people's entire Christian experience, subconsciously or consciously. Is I feel terrible about that. And I think that might be. Speaking to my Jewish friends now, it seems like that phrase is conspicuous to them. Like, you guys aren't like us because you're so focused on feeling bad about everything. And you don't realize until you get out and you're like, a lot of that experience was just someone saying, don't you feel terrible? Oh, yeah, I do feel terrible. I've got an answer for that terrible feeling that you've always had. Actually, I just had that feeling because you told me that I did, but you know, that's the way those more unintentionally disrespectful terms here. But not saying this is true about Christianity necessarily, but it is true about all fake made up things where they create a problem for you and then they sell you the solution for that problem. And so maybe Christianity is different. Maybe Christianity is totally right. I would hope that's true in a lot of cases. But it does seem to be, it doesn't fit into the category that is frustrating in that way.
Yeah, for sure. So before we dive into all the nuances of your belief and your time with the Lord, can you give us a little bit of earlier background of your dad? That's an interesting piece of this, even though it may not be directly part of your story, but the background is crucial. Who is your dad and what did he do?
Yeah, that's another one of those things where I don't have enough space from it currently to have any kind of like objective sense of it. It was normal to me, but some of the things that stand out to other people when I tell my story is that he became a pastor when he was 25, which seems kind of young to have your own congregation, no associate pastor, and very little or no oversight from the pseudo-denomination, which I don't mean that disrespectfully either. They don't consider themselves a denomination, they consider themselves a fellowship of churches, but they're called a denomination, so I think the fellowship of churches means sign up and we won't really look too much at what you're doing, just you'll have fellowship with other pastors. It's kind of like a club, but then if you ask the question, so there's no accountability for your pastors, like, we're a denomination. Okay. So that was the group that he was a part of, a fellowship of churches, and he was pretty young. He was before that, he was in the film A Thief in the Night, and he was the piano-playing pastor that got raptured while he was mowing his lawn. So from age 19, he was officially recognized by the world as stupid! And I don't think he ever broke character later on in his life. As far as I've ever seen him, he's always been the guy that's right.
People wouldn't believe what was going to happen until the flood actually
fucking damn it.
away. So shall my coming be. 2 men will be working together in the fields. One will be taken, the other left. So be prepared, for you know not what day your Lord is coming. The Bible says in the twinkling of an eye. Millions of people suddenly disappear. Leave this earth to meet the Lord. And the shocked world will discover suddenly that what the Bible said is true.
Suck my fucking dick.
So Christians, be alert.
Suck my
Friend,
dick.
if you haven't given life to Christ, do it.
I fucked
And do
it.
it now.
Oh,
Because
suck
the
my
will
dick.
come, Christ will return. It says in the Bible that he will come as a thief in the night. One of these days, there could be any minute now, Christ is going to come back for his own.
Suck.
After that, it's going to be pretty awful on earth.
Dick.
You really believe all that? Yes, I do.
And if you have your own church and very little or zero accountability, that you can apparently live a long time in that world, where you're just always right, and the people who disagree with
Bitch, you suck my dick.
are falling away from the Lord. So
Is he a
that was
pastor?
Bitch, you suck
I don't know. I work hard not to keep tabs on them.
Bitch, you
It's not
suck
great for my
my
mental
dick,
health
bitch.
to indulge that persistence in my brain. But I think that he may have retired. But they're all.
Bitch,
I
you
haven't
suck
talked to
my
them in
fucking
3
dick.
years. Last night I talked to them. They let me know.
Suck my
Officially
fucking
no longer
dick.
their son. So, and I'm hoping that maybe by the time this airs or sometime in the future,
Bitch, suck my
before we all
dick.
die, we'll be able to reconcile that.
You
So
suck my
I
dick,
don't.
bitch.
I'm not necessarily hopeless about the situation, but
You suck my
yeah,
dick,
it's
bitch.
as far as I know, they're still fully into whatever they were into. So if he's not pastoring, I'm sure he's finding some way to help the world in a similar way he was before.
Yeah, well, I've probably asked a few more
Bitch, you
questions
suck
when
my
we
dick,
get to that
bitch.
point of the timeline, so to speak. But feel free to take us back then. Could you
Bitch, you suck
tell
my
us
dick,
a little bit more about when you did place your faith
Now
first
fuck
and
up
you
and all
did
of this
make yourself-
fucking donkey Kong.
Just what is, for someone, say, Buddhist or someone else watching this not from kind of background, what does the gospel mean? What does it mean for you to be saved, and what were we being saved from? And what was God doing
Bitch, you suck my
by
dick,
saving you?
bitch.
Yeah, I mean, we all have original sin. So there was that thing. I was
Suck my
cursed being
motherfucking
a descendant of
dick.
Eve, and the only way to
You
cover
suck
over
my
that sin
fucking
was to ask Jesus to come into my heart, whatever that meant. At age 5, it made perfect sense. And then God would no longer hold that original sin against me, because he would no longer see me and my horrible self when he looked at me. He would just see the beauty of Jesus and his death on the cross and his resurrection. And so, because Jesus stood in for me, then I got to go to heaven. This is another one of those things where looking back, that seems
You suck my
pretty
motherfucking
deeply
dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick.
in
Bitch, you
that
bitch, you suck
God
my
can't love
dick,
me.
bitch.
I'm not good enough
Bitch, you suck my
to be
motherfucking
loved by my heavenly Father. I need someone else to stand in. Like, man, don't look at me. Aren't I pretty? I'm your son. Look at Jesus instead.
Bitch, you
And then God's like, yeah, Jesus, you can bring your plus one. So that
And you're
was
literally so bad,
bitch.
someone has to be tortured, not just punished, but tortured for you.
yes. I mean, none of this is again. It's just normal life when you're there. So none of that like really stands out. You're just so grateful as you're taught to be
Bitch, suck my
over and
dick,
over. So grateful that Jesus would be tortured for you, because it was going to be you that was tortured otherwise. So you don't think about the absurdity of the proposition. It's just gratitude. I mean, I think that's the normal fight or flight.
Bitch, suck my
What
dick,
are the
bitch.
other F's are? That's the normal response to like, hey, you're gonna burn in hell forever. Like, okay, is there any way out? Well, as a matter of fact,
God
yes,
damn it.
it comes 10% of your income. So yeah, that was I think that was what I was being saved from. And then we have these other
God fucking damn it.
kind of hard to understand verses that talk about continually being saved, and there's words in there like regeneration, stuff like that, and where you're like, you're saved, but you gotta keep on moving. You can't just stop. It's not just because you're saved doesn't mean you get to stay saved. And then of course you have huge Armenian and Calvinist splits over what all that means. But pretty much everybody agrees. Like if you're doing bad stuff, you're in trouble. No matter how you want to cut it theologically. So we were, I think we were on the Armenian side, and so, well, I guess it doesn't really matter what all that means, but yeah, you got to keep moving, you got to keep trying. If you see yourself messing up, you should rededicate yourself to Christ. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't saved, but better to be safe than sorry. And so that was too much of my... What's that?
There's too much at stake.
God damn it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And so you might as well just recommit one more time and then be grateful that no matter how many times you need to recommit your life, He's still willing to cover over your pathetic, ugly, despicable, filthy rag soul. Because you're really horrible. And if you look deep enough, you know you're terrible, right?
It's interesting when you talk about the whole repeating the process. I've had a few people point out, I think very astutely over the years, that there really is like a spiritual OCD, and even if your personality doesn't lean toward that, you never kind of become the kind of person that flips the light switch over, or check the door, lock over. There's still a spiritual OCD that comes into the equation where you're, like you said, trying to make sure and double check you're saved. But even if those were like these really intense moments of just going back to the cross and kneeling, saying the prayer, almost like that gravity up to the mountaintop experience where you're sure again that you're on fire for the Lord and He's the King of your life. Even in the midst of those high points and valleys, there's all these little teeny micro moments like, oh, I sinned. Like, oh, I sinned again. Oh, I sinned again. And even the presumptuous is like, did I just do that really nice, good, righteous thing out of pride? Did I just pray that prayer, but someone saw me? Jesus said, pray in your closet. Did I just do that so they would hear me pray?
Now fuck up and overload so I can dick up that.
And you end up just constantly checking yourself. And even the Bible talks a lot about examining yourself. That if you would judge yourself, you would not be judged. And therefore you need to judge yourself over and over on a daily basis. Examine your heart to see what sins are there. And you do end up in a spiritual OCD cycle where you have to always look in the mirror and say, how did I mess up today? How did I mess up this hour? And of course, you add very basic human dynamics like puberty and just growth and hormones and everything. You end up adding a whole bunch of dynamics where you feel guilty just for being in your own skin. It's really intense.
Yeah.
Now fuck up and mean calling out his two faces like a start the fuck with you.
In my experience, most of the people that I knew and talked to kind of felt like, okay, but what if I don't ever sin? Like, aren't I kind of good if I don't ever sin? I mean, that was the question for the guy that came to Jesus, right? In the Bible, he's like, okay, I've never done any sinning. And Jesus' answer is the same answer as the church's answer. I don't think this is true in reality, but in Christian theology, Jesus' answer is the same as the church's, which is, that's still not good enough. Perfect isn't good enough. And so, you've got to constantly be dealing with this. Like, you always left the oven on, and so you always have to be okay. Well, I gotta go back and double toast. Okay, turn the oven off, and you can walk out for a second. But then think about the oven on. You gotta keep going back and turning it off, like you're saying. And layered on top of that is the emotional, personal, and relational guilt of Jesus is your best friend. And each time that you sin, you're taking your best friend and re-nailing him to the cross. Which is, I mean, if that doesn't induce guilt in a normal human being with like a normal amount of humanity in them, I don't know what would. Like, the guy who gave me everything, who loves me more than anybody else, who loves me when I'm unlovable. That's a tough sentence, but that guy, I just because I want to,
Bitch, you suck
every
my
time I
dick, bitch.
Want to do
Fuck up
something
and over
that
this
he
second
doesn't
don't
approve
come
of,
the fuck
I'm renailing him to the cross. And once again, like, if this was the only sin that existed in the whole universe, you have to die on the cross.
Boom!
Yeah,
Donkey
that makes you feel like a piece of crap. And it does. It's successful.
Yeah, I think even in the positive side of it is saying, all right, I'm not sinning in this moment, but like, well, what are you doing for the sake of righteousness and disciplining your flesh? Like, there was always the intense pressure in my world to just be praying more and more for the lost. Like they would constantly tell stories of, Uncle so-and-so prayed for his, brother to get saved. He had to pray for 30 years, but he prayed every single day for 30 years, and then his brother got saved. It's like, isn't so-and-so's salvation worth enough? You can pray every single day for 30 years. And, what are you doing to, you can take all day long to focus on your stuff, on your school, on your work, on your hobbies. You can't take 30 minutes for God. Are you kidding me? He gave you the entire day. And the intense pressure that even if you're not sinning, you're still not doing enough to be self-disciplined. And I remember there was some quote, I can't even remember exactly how it goes, but something like, I'm so busy today that I have to spend at least 4 hours in prayer before I even start.
You suck, man.
Yep. Well, and you got to get into the finances too, because you don't have enough money to not tithe. Like that's the testimony. And testimony is
stupid.
Like in court, your testimony, like the testimony is the guy from that one side who's trying to prove that one side true. And he's going to try to exclude all the stuff that doesn't help out with that one side. It's not like it's not like he's presenting the person who's giving the testimony is trying to present general truth. Like they've got a side. But in church, like you hear testimonies like this just is one more proof of God's faithfulness. But then it's the same thing. Like that's a one-sided. If you took all the people who prayed every single day for their relative, or every single day for these are
I just did. You're wrong.
Prayed for their friend's cancer, or prayed for whatever. You take all those people and you let all of them testify. No one's going to walk out a Christian. And again, I don't mean to be flippant or dismissive, but if you take the one out of 1,000 that got answered. And then you let everybody testify, I prayed for every single day for 30 years and nothing. The guy died and went to hell. You're going to have 100 of those, and you're going to have one of them who's like, oh yeah, this guy converted. And that's how I know that God always answers prayer. Except for the other 99 times. And that doesn't prove that God is real. That doesn't prove anything. It just proves that the testimony that you're getting is biased, as you would expect it to be, but you just have to acknowledge that. And I feel like that spirit right there is probably the spirit of my deconstruction, at least, and the spirit of the book, which is just like, let's just be honest about this. I'm not saying Christianity is right. I'm not saying there is no God. I don't need to say any of that. I just need to say this testimony is a biased testimony, and it doesn't really prove what we're saying that it proves.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to get to that shortly. Before we do, I just have a few more questions about sort of your background. I want to make sure we kind of paint a solid picture. Can you tell us about your meeting, how you met your wife, and that story? And then how did you all end up moving into the worship pastor phase of life?
God fucking
yeah. Okay, that is a very long story. Let me see if I can come up and I'll let you jump in with questions along the way. So I was homeschooled from kindergarten through 11th grade. Then my mom took over a Christian school on the campus of my dad's church. So K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade, a maximum of 120 students. It was a really small school. 6 people in my graduating class. One of those people was my wife, Wendy. And so we of course got married. That's what you do with the first eligible person that you meet. It's worked out for us so far. We're celebrating 20 years this year together. So it's not always a perfect story, but it's at least a scary story. So we got married.
Fucking shit.
At age 23, I think it was. And then The worship pastoral thing was just like that was kind of a given. My brother and I've always had this annoying streak, rebellious streak. I would call it a curious streak, but it depends on your perspective. Of just like. Can we be honest? Like this thing's weird, right? Like, I'm just real honest. This thing doesn't make sense. But I'm supposed to go on stage and say that it makes sense, but it doesn't really, and that feels yucky to me.
Suck my dick.
Like the lyrics of your song?
Now fuck up and put my book
well, sure. Or the preaching, or the whatever. Just like making claims about God that seemed weird. And seemed like they didn't make sense. And I also had the sense that like the world that I grew up in was so one-sided. Like there wasn't, you don't go out and question, and that's a whole other can of worms that takes up 50 pages in the book. Like the anti-intellectualism, like don't go talk to those bad people. And it's scriptural too. I mean, the Bible says don't be led astray by people who think differently than you, essentially. So you've got good reasons within the leadership and with the Bible to not go out and find out things. But even in this insulated world that I lived in, every now and then something would creep in. Like, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. It's weird. It seems like I don't know for sure, but I'm supposed to go out and teach it. And I know it for sure. So that was kind of my personality. Was this annoying guy like, man, you're talented, you could really become something for the Lord. You could really make a difference in the world. But you just have this rebellious streak because you're prideful. You think you know better than God. Stuff like that. Where it's just like, oh, that's what a question means. So
I've got to just applaud you for even having those doubts and questions, because I acknowledge that I had some too, but I had this thing in my mind, I guess to say, that I always chalked it up to, it's an apparent discrepancy, it's a supposed issue, but number one, you've always got the glorious, the knowledge and the glories of heaven.
Now fuck up and do that
fucking view, the beautiful tapestry of what his whole workings have been and what the theology has meant, even when you didn't understand it. But also, even here on earth, I always thought, you know what, there's some really brilliant theologians, there's brilliant pastors and PhD teachers at Bible college and seminary. They surely had the dark night of the soul. They surely went through times of, this doesn't make sense. And yet, over the years,
this is boy!
And they're now in their 60s, 70s, 80s, preaching firmly, writing theology books, and expounding the Word of God. Something in their minds, they know more than me. And it was almost like this example, like when you learn more, when you learn more Greek and Hebrew, when you learn better theology, when you're just exposed to the deeper thinkers of times, such as the Puritans and Charles Spurgeon and all the good people, the people that truly have the meat of the Word just in their blood, as it were. When you're thinking their thoughts after, when you're thinking the Bible, you're just breathing it in and out, you will eventually get to a point where these things will either, number one, drop, or you will be more equipped than ever to say, I still don't understand, blessed be the name of the Lord. Either way, you wait till you're smarter, or you wait till your head's in heaven, but it's not ultimately an issue. And for some reason, that was what kind of kept you from moving forward. It sounds like you were brave enough to ask questions.
Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick.
Okay, so two things on that. One, thank you, but I feel like I was just given a broken brain, and it wasn't like any act of bravery on my part. I feel like I was destined to continue to wonder and to be honest about the answers I was given. And that's not a thing that everyone is given. So I don't know that I had a choice in this. I feel like I can't force myself to believe. Like I want to believe. I'm giving myself over to believe. Please take me over. That's where I want to be. But I don't have a choice in the matter. I just can't believe. And so then the question after that is, well, do I lie and say that I do believe and I don't? And there's a good defense to that. I mean, there's a nice, big, welcoming community. There's a lot to be lost by being honest with yourself. So, but I just don't have the personality that would endure that for very long. So I don't know that it's to my credit or my fault. I think I was born this way.
Well, Well, can I clarify this in terms of the timeline? When was the first time that you were seriously saying, there's a serious splinter in my mind?
Move, you whore!
Problem versus just, I'm just working through stuff. I just, need to grow in my understanding of the word.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's kind of like one of those tipping point things. Like things pile up and everything's great until it's not. Right? And like you're saying, there's this whole, just trust the experts. Like, you think you're smarter than Josh McDowell? Really? Like, that guy's a lawyer. That's debatable. But you are really smart guys. And you're going to risk you're going to bet your eternal salvation on the fact that you think, as a piano player, you're smarter than C.S. Lewis? Really? Okay, well, if you want to put your eternal destiny in a debate between you and C.S. Lewis, go for it, buddy. Good luck with that. Okay, good point. I'm not smarter than any of those guys. I know that for sure. So I'll trust them. I'll go with it. And that's been one of the major deep disappointments of this process for me is like, when you actually finally do ask the question, like, okay, but this thing right here, this is weird, right? And then you go back to all those guys, like there aren't real answers to it, and the answers that are there in a lot of cases are more like, yeah, that's weird, but shut up, because there's people who are stupider than you and me, and they need more assurance. So we don't say the big truths out loud, because that's going to lead people astray. So the dumb people need the you and me, the smart people, to not ask those questions. And that just feels incredibly condescending. And maybe they're right. Maybe 100% I'm wrong and they're right. And you and I currently right now, Tim, are putting people's souls in jeopardy. That could be. But again, my brain is just broken, and I can't bring myself to do that anymore. So
you mentioned the word. I hear you. It's an interesting journey for sure. I love how you use the word weird at least twice. One of the things, looking back at this whole thing, and I know I'm jumping ahead now, but my deconversion's part of it. Looking back, the Lord's table, and circumcision, I should say those two things together. But those two things really never seemed weird to me. And thinking, okay,
I believe what's Lord's table?
Like the Eucharist, communion. So you're eating, you're pretending to eat a dead man's body, pretending to drink a dead man's blood, dead and resurrected. But you're pretending to eat a guy that got killed, pretending to eat his body and drink his blood. And then with circumcision, you're saying, I believe in a God who likes to cut off the end of little boys' penises. And when I look back at that stuff, I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? I mean, there's more to it than that when you realize that, for example, the Egyptians were doing that. The Egyptians were circumcising. The Egyptians had a pork taboo. They were doing this stuff long before the Israelites were doing it. And then you realize with the Eucharist, the Mithraeus, and other people were doing this too. When you wanted to join the Mithraic temple, for hundreds of years before Christ, you would have a meal,
move, you dickhole,
and beer or bread and wine, and you would get baptized in order to join their group. And it's like you see there's more to it, but even if you don't have that information yet, just to think, wait a second, isn't this a little bit?
I'm sorry, but after this, I gotta go shit.
It strikes me as it's a great testimony to the fact that when you're in it young, which you alluded to, when you're in it young, it's just your world. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's saying this is the best life ever. This is the best world ever. This is the most accurate perception of reality, and this is going to end up in a great outcome for you in eternity. You just accept it and say, yeah, this is great. And looking back,
bitch, you suck my dick, bitch.
Yeah. Well, and even recently, I've had a little different. I've had a change of opinion about like the parallel myths and stuff. But even if the myth, I don't want to disrespect you because I know you're smarter than I am on the myth stuff. But let's just grant to Christians all that. Like, okay, but all those guys were wrong, and Jesus was the right one. Maybe that's true. There's no way to prove it's not true. So maybe that's true. Still, the world I grew up in said, there's never been anyone like Jesus. Like,
man, I got
no one else
has
been born to a virgin. No one else has done miracles. No one else had 12 disciples, was crucified and rose on the third day. Like, this is a once in the universe story. And maybe he's the only one that's real about, but that sentence is not true. So that's a bummer. So like when you finally realize that, like, wait a second, you guys set me up for this deconstruction. Like, if this all is true, you should have started with that. You should have been like, you know what, back then everyone was born to a virgin. Everyone had 12 disciples. Everyone was dying and rising, and that was just the thing that was going on. And then Jesus comes along. And C.S. Lewis does this a little bit, actually, and I got to respect him for that. He says, yeah, this stuff was all going on for thousands of years before Jesus. And then Jesus comes along. That was just like an appetite stimulant, right? And so that was creating this appetite so that when the real thing came along, then Jesus, people would be like, yes, that's what we've been waiting for the whole entire time. So I at least respect his honesty on the topic of like, yeah, Jesus wasn't unique at all. I mean, he might have been perhaps a slightly unique conglomeration of all of these different things, but that wasn't a unique story. So I feel like if you're going to raise your kids Christian, at least raise them knowing all these other myths, and that's a dangerous proposition. If you do that, it's going to make Jesus look credible. But if you don't do that and they ever find out any of that crap, then it's going to be a major struggle for them. So it seems like a more secure thing to just start with the C.S. Lewis version, which is Jesus isn't unique at all.
So just to add one more quick thing here about the mythology, I do a lot to respect like his mind. Their ages are between ages 3 and almost 9. So they're still young, they're very impressionable. And I like to really make sure that they understand this context we're talking about. But some of it is like, I think it's really important to where you started with like, it isn't necessarily that they saw a story and then they copied it. It's just what everybody's doing. It's just this is just everybody today is talking about Star Wars. Everyone's talking about the Avengers. Everyone's just these guys have motifs that are coming up. So it's not that strange or something similar. It's not necessarily copying it. It's just what we're all thinking about. Star Trek, all that kind of stuff with the fantasy worlds. But some of it's a little bit too close to home to not be like directly part of the story in a sense, at least in my opinion. When you look at, for example, Dionysius would turn water into wine. He did that for hundreds of years in the story before Jesus. He would, triumphantly ride into the town on a donkey. Zeus, the high god, he was known for crying tears that were drops of blood and water. Helios, the sun god, he had a purple robe, and he had the sun rays around his head as a crown. Jesus gets the purple robe and crown of thorns. Hermes, the Flash, the guy with the golden slippers that could run real fast. There's stories where he walks across the water to go save somebody. Jesus walks across the water to go save somebody. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. But I think when you, like you're saying, when you do expose people to this, it inoculates them to the idea that Jesus is different, but it introduces the idea that maybe some of this stuff is them literally trying to say, we know you, these people in this group, believe this particular set of characters, and we have somebody to replace them. But he's actually better. He's actually a better version of that. Or even of actual ruling characters like Romulus. This guy, these people are people that you respect, and we have some you can just respect even more. But the motifs you're going to carry over is going to be very, very simple to flip to this new guy. But some of them are just so close, you can't help but think that there's no way that's real, there's no way that's historical. But there's no way that didn't have some kind of direct one-for-one correlation. It's almost like they copied and pasted.
Yep. And that's where I'm a little less, because I want my audience to be evangelicals. I'm a little more open to granting them there is no one-for-one correlation, even though as you read it, you just gotta make up your own mind. If you read that stuff, a lot of us are going to reach the same conclusion on this thing. But again, it doesn't prove anything.
So as you are as a parent, doing this stuff to protect your kids, I think one of the awesomest parts about this is you do inoculate them, like I said, against the sense of we have this one story and there's never been anything like it. But I think it also helps when you weave into that, not only is this not an original story, but going back to what we said 5 minutes ago, it's also very absurd. Like, you really think this stuff happened. And I think the other thing is this is going way broader, stepping back, but I think as Christians, it really points out that we weren't told about the context. And it's funny, when I was growing up in church, they always preached, you can't read a verse unless you know the context. You have to take it in context or you'll mess it up. And unless it's something real simple, like, a psalm, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. But if it's something like Paul's letter, you got to see the context of the whole paragraph and the chapter and the whole book and where it is in the Bible. And yet, you realize that they didn't give you the full context of the Greco-Roman mystery cults, the Greco-Roman pantheon, and the Homeric epics, which is a huge part of this, and as well as, for me, a big deal, the Book of Enoch. I had never heard of Enoch apart from a few mentions in the Bible, and then as I do my study, I find there's 200 quotes of the Book of Enoch in the New Testament. Like, that doesn't mean you have to be converted. Why didn't you tell me? You know?
Right. Yeah, and that's the frustration of, like, I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from in deconstruction, which all...
Oh, she's cute.
You see the context of the whole paragraph and the chapter and the whole book and where it is in the Bible. And yet, growing up in church, they always preached, you can't read a verse unless you know the context. You have to take it in context or you'll mess it up. And unless it's something really simple, like, a psalm, praise the Lord. But if it's something like Paul's letter, you got to see the context of the whole paragraph and the chapter and the whole book and where it is in the Bible.
You suck, man.
And yet, you realize that they didn't give you the full context of the Greco-Roman mystery cults, the Greco-Roman pantheon, and the Homeric epics, which is a huge part of this, and as well as, for me, a big deal, the Book of Enoch. I had never heard of Enoch apart from the few mentions in the Bible, and then as I do my own study, I find there's 200 quotes of the Book of Enoch in the New Testament. I'm like, that doesn't mean you have to be converted, but why didn't you tell me? You know?
Right. And that's the frustration of, like,
all the brain saying no, there's no lost truth
from
that's bullshit.
Which also, like, that's totally reasonable. I can see how evangelicals would get defensive when they see someone angry about. So not that anyone's supposed to do something different, but I can see the context there. Yeah, that's the frustration. Like, why didn't you tell me all this stuff? Which is, I think that's my goal with my own kids. Is like, I want to leave them open to Christianity. Like, I don't know what the answers are, and maybe this is true. And if it's true, if Christianity is true, I want my kids to be Christian. If Scientology is true, I want them to be Scientologists. If Mormonism is true, I hope that with all my heart they become Mormons, and I'm the only one in the family that doesn't make it into one of the 3 levels of heaven. I want them to make it into the highest level of heaven. Whatever the truth is, I want them to find that truth and to be happy and safe for all of eternity. But then, give them the thing, like, if you become Mormon, here was Joseph Smith, here was his previous employment, here's his relationship with his dad, there's this thing with the gold tabs. I want them to have the full story, because when you go in the doors of the Mormon church, they don't tell you the backstory, they tell you, don't you feel like a piece of crap? Like, we've got a solution for that. And, I mean, then you get converted, and then you got all this buy-in. So by the time you get to the gold tablets, and all that other stuff, and polygamy, and all this stuff, you're like, oh, well, how do I fit this into my life? Because this is my life, and I can't change my life now. And so, same thing with Scientology or Christianity, whatever. Like, I'm not opposed to them becoming any one of those things, but I do want them to know the backstory. So,
and I just add to it with the thought of maybe, if you want your kids to be whatever Scientologists or Mormons, if that's true, I think that there needs to be the other premise of, like, if any of them are true, they're the
fuck up and overlook this so I can dick him the bishop and you can't do that fucking poem.
And that's the issue, is, like, it's not just, I want my kids to the truth, even if it's this crazy story. It's like, we want that, but we want the story if it seems crazy and not easily verifiable. So eventually have verifiable evidence. It can't just be I want them to go out on a wing and a prayer, but to just know in their heart of hearts that this is true. Like, there has to be, and that's why people say, what if your kids become Christians? I said, they're completely free. I told them that. You're free to be a Christian, but we're going to have some serious conversations. How did you find out that it's true? because I can show you evidence that it's just mythology. It's extreme evidence, books worth of evidence. How did you conclude that it's true when everything else points to it not being? I think that's the thing. You want to pursue the truth, but the truth has to be in the context of can the claims be substantiated? And particularly Mormonism and Scientology, the answer is clearly absolutely not.
Dick bitch.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a step back from there. I might be more woo-woo in my current journey than you're comfortable being. Because I don't think that for me, I don't even think that I need to get to that place of like, prove to me that it's true. Because then you have the undefeatable argument from Christians, like there's no, you can't prove with your five senses the spiritual realm. And like, well, that would, if there is such a thing, that would be true. And so then you just have to like know in your heart. But before I even get to that whole like proof thing, for me, just like knowing the backstory is enough. Like, okay, you had that experience in that church. Now let's go actually attend a Mormon service. And before you go in, I want you to put in your mind that this is the true church, right? So just pretend for a second. You're going to play a character. You're going there. Pretend like this is the real
move, you whore.
Church. This is the one truth. The same attitude that you walked into this Christian church with, I want you to walk into this Mormon church with, and look around and see the people weeping, see the people testifying to God's faithfulness, see all of this exact same stuff. This all feels just as divine, just as true, and their proof is the same as yours. Like literally, you talk to a Mormon missionary, they're like, just read the Bible and see if it resonates in your spirit. And they're right. Like if you read the Bible, their Bible, the Book of Mormon, if you read the Book of Mormon, believing that the Book of Mormon is holy and divine and inspired, it feels holy and divine and inspired.
Man, this is bullshit.
If you read the Bible believing that it's inerrant and infallible, it reads inerrant and infallibly. So then what do you do with those? Like, that would be my question for my kids is like, we don't even need to get to the proof thing. Like, this experience is too common among these irreconcilable belief systems.
Much!
I don't know how you're going to just pick one based on feelings because they're all picking theirs based on feelings.
Yes, exactly. Good point.
Come on, dumbass.
Can I ask? As you are going back a little bit to your story, as you're thinking through some of those things, at what point were you free to verbalize them? And like, who were the safe people in the world? Like, did your wife object at all at first? And when you started talking about it, like, where was the first time you actually said what you were thinking out loud?
Yeah. Two great questions. Let's hit the wife thing and the one that I have questions thing. So I don't know because again it's like this piling up of things that eventually like you finally hit one and like all the rest of them click into place. Like these were all unknowns, and then you get to one known and the rest of them all like, oh, these are all knowns. There's a reason these never got an answer because there is an answer and it wasn't the one that I was given. And so like that. So then when did you actually start having questions? Well, I started piling these things up a long time ago. One of the points in my history that I can look back on is in 2010, as a full-time minister, children's pastor, worship pastor, consultant for the mega churches around, I opened up this blog. I got this domain name, Finding God Despite Religion, which just really resonated with me at the time because like maybe all of this stuff is right. Maybe I'm in the one good true church in all of the. I'm in the one good church in the one good denomination in the one good religion.
Man, he is born as
talk to you about my other lives that I also live. But I was attracted to dermatology just to kind of give you the background. Yes, because I hate convincing people they have a problem. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I never wanted to tell you have diabetes, that you can't see it, so go take this medication. And then probably you'll not take the medication, and then you'll come back and I'll have to treat you again. And so derm is so cool because you can see your skin, you can see your problems, so I don't have to do much except help you help yourself. And so that's how I got into the field. And so that kind of makes sense in hindsight, thinking about educating and social, because I reached a point where I was just reaching patients in my practice, and I was getting kind of really sick of this information, and people coming in having done stuff they didn't even know why they got it done, treatments that they didn't need, money spent that they didn't need to spend. And so I turned to social to be like, okay, let's cut the bullshit. This is everything about cosmetics. This is what you need. This is what you don't need. This is how you think of it. This is X, Y, and Z. And I did it because I wanted to own my own voice. So if people would come to me, they knew who I was already. And they knew what they were signing up for. And I wanted it to be a very easy and open conversation where people knew that I was giving them the information to help themselves.
And you do such a good job at that, by the way. You boil down what could be complicated or there's such an oversaturation of products, and you make it so simple.
I just
Spit it in the
forest before you try to understand every single type of tree that exists, because you'll never learn all the trees. But if you look at the forest and you get the lay of the land, it's much simpler to navigate yourself and to help yourself. And so, but that's how I started on social, and it was really about purely educating people so that they could feel empowered to do the decisions for themselves, so that nobody is taking them for a ride, nobody is taking them for an extra treatment that they didn't need, and people felt like they could actually make a difference in their own lives. And that's how social media started. But I did not anticipate it to have the effect that it had. Genuinely, it started from my bed as late night pillow talks when my daughter was only 8 months old. I wasn't in the best mental headspace, and so I really wanted people to feel better so I could feel better. And then COVID hit in 2020, and I got COVID, and I was locked up really nicely for 2 weeks in my room. It was actually really nice. People to feel better so I could feel better. And then COVID hit in 2020, and I got COVID, and I was locked up really nicely for 2 weeks in my room. It was actually really nice because I had time to think, but I had no one to talk to. So that's when you guys came into the conversation. That is how the best YouTubers get started. Literally how YouTube started. I was like, you know what? No one's talking to me because they're not. And my family were sick of me because you're not really sick, but you're like locked in your room. And so I just put up the camera horizontally instead of vertically, because I was using Instagram stories. And I was like, let's talk about these moisturizers. And we just started. And then my Tiffany, who works alongside me at the time, was like, you just started something. You have to show up every week. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I didn't understand the landscape. Yeah, she's like, it's a show now. Now you're going to show up, and people are going to expect you every single week. So get ready. Yeah, I did like, I don't know, 8 episodes that were those 14 days for 8 weeks. Yeah, and it just started snowballing on YouTube. And that's how YouTube started.
And then you took this surge of viewership, of eyeballs, this newfound audience, and you launched your own line off of that.
So the line was also never thought in my mind until down the road. So I would lie if I said my dream was to start a skincare brand. No, it was not. My dream was just to be independent, to own my own practice, to be financially independent, to call my own shots, to just live my own life without anybody breathing down my neck. That was my dream. Yeah. And the skincare brand came out of a demand from the community that we built. So the online community, as you know, is called Pillow Talk Derm because it was born from bed. And they're the ones who asked me for a product that they wanted to believe in, that they trusted, because they knew for years I had not really done sponsorships, I had not taken any sort of like brand deals, and I was really just talking from the heart. And so when that demand started trickling in more and more frequently,
bitch, you suck, man.
A light bulb also went off in my head, and I was like, maybe there is space for this, but why? And so I made it an interactive thing where I would ask the community, what do we want? Do we really want this? Do we not want this? I didn't want it to be a decision that I made because I was asked by like 1 or 2 people. Sure. So it was something that was constantly brought up, and it was a discussion that we had back and forth. And then the skincare brand was born a few years later. Through those discussions, because of the community and because of YouTube.
Yeah, dicking up those fucking
podcasts. No, but I was able to fund it, not just through my practice, because I see patients every day in my practice.
Damn!
But I also have to think that to succeed.
Oh, sucker! I saw that coming from a mile away.
And to really create
stupid.
What you're describing is not unique in the sense that people come to YouTube because
now that was a white man's checkmate.
And actually, according to a survey done by Ipsos, this is
that was a white game of chill.
More people trust YouTube during their purchase journey than other social media platforms. So it makes so much sense that you, first off, built that engagement with your audience, right? You asked them what they wanted, and then you delivered.
Yeah, that checkmate was not gay.
The most valuable currency when I decided to venture into the social landscape was trust.
Yeah,
it's funny. My husband, who also has a job, I have a day job as a physician, was like, "You're not getting sponsorships for the first 2 years." And I didn't really understand, like, why. Like, if I like the product and you're talking about it, why not? It's like, because you don't want to corrode the trust that you're building.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't to be a martyr that I didn't take the sponsorships, but it was really to be able to speak freely, as objectively as humanly possible. Right? Everybody has their own partialities and their own subjectivities, but to speak from a place of like pure authenticity from your heart, to build that trust. And so for a few years I took 0 sponsorships, and I was very naively surprised when you could make money off of YouTube, just by publishing videos, because I didn't know when I started, when I had money off of YouTube, just by publishing videos, because I didn't know when I started, when I had that COVID, and I was in that room just boring! I had no idea that you could monetize after a certain point. It was more just to talk.
You suck my dick, bitch. Come on, you fucking slut. Much!
Now, hey everybody, I stumbled across a video on YouTube this week that was published about a month ago by an apologetic content creator who goes by The Word Room. And this is about a 55-minute video that is a response to some comments of mine that were made on Twitter. And this content creator is trying to defend the unity of the creation accounts of Genesis 1 and 2, and is criticizing not only my response on Twitter, but some videos of mine where I go into a bit more detail. And I just wanted to review part of this. I can't go through the entire 55-minute video. I'm probably going to go through about the first half of it and maybe get to the other half another time. So let's take a look.
A scholar who I think is more of an activist than an exegete or a careful reader just called me out on one of my takes on Genesis 1 and 2. Does Dan McClellan's response to me hold water? Let's see.
Alright, let's see it.
Now this all started on X or Twitter. Dan had actually retweeted something from Answers in Genesis, and then the conversation flowed from there. So I'm going to pull up the conversation. I'm going to show it here on screen, and we'll talk about what Dan said, what he called me out on.
I see a dick in your future. I see a dick.
Dan retweeted Answers in Genesis where they said if a claim contradicts the Bible, it is a false claim. And Dan said that puts us in a bit of a pickle because the Bible contradicts the Bible numerous times. Now I responded with a simple, no it doesn't. And someone else responded, it doesn't make it past the first 2 chapters, Genesis 1 and 2, before it contradicts itself, citizen. And that's where the conversation really dived into Genesis.
So the next almost 5 minutes of this video is actually just reviewing things that this content creator said to another person on Twitter. So I'm going to skip ahead to a part where they make the meat of their initial claim before we get to the responses to my videos.
First, you need to understand the Bible wasn't written in English. So depending on the translation you use when you read Genesis 5, it's going to say that no plant or herb of the field is growing on the earth. But when it uses the word earth, it's not using the word earth the way we use it in English. We read the word earth and we think of a plant. When the Hebrew word is used, it just means land or ground, and it doesn't mean the entire planet. Genesis 2 tells us that no plant or herb of the field has grown on the land. What land? Well, if you pay attention to the context of the story in Genesis 2 and what it's talking about, we see that Genesis is narrowing in on the land of Eden and specifically focuses on that land. And so then I said, and then when you actually look at the wording here, it doesn't just say no plant or herb, but says specifically no plant or herb of the field. The phrase of the field is a Hebrew phrase that includes cultivated crops. And then, when you dig deeper, it goes on to say, for there was no man to work the ground.
So this is a pretty standard apologetic approach to trying to unify the 2 different creation accounts of Genesis 1 and 2. And the idea is to suggest that the creation account of Genesis 2 is either temporally focusing in on day 6 or spatially focusing in on the Garden of Eden. And this doesn't work for a number of reasons, but this response really only engages with one part of it, and it asserts something that is just not true. And particularly this paragraph here. We read the word earth and we think of the planet, but when that Hebrew word is used, it just means land or ground, and it doesn't mean the entire planet. This is only half true. The word can mean land or ground or territory or region or property or something like that, but it can also mean the entire planet, as it does from Genesis 1:1 all the way through to Genesis 2:4, as pretty much all scholars agree. In fact, we can look at the ESV and you're not going to be able to make out too much from this image, but on the left we have every verse of Hebrew between Genesis 1:1 and 2:5 that has the Hebrew word eretz, earth, and then on the right we have the ESV. And every red box is going around the place where the ESV rendered eretz as earth in reference to
stupid! I'm fixing it.
And then at the bottom you see two purple boxes.
That cutting off for left ear.
They changed the rendering to land. Now there's nothing in the immediate context that suggests or demands we suddenly alter our understanding of the particular use of the Hebrew word eretz. The reason that the ESV and the content creator wants you to understand suddenly for eretz to be meaning something else is because it creates a contradiction if it doesn't. Because we're suddenly starting the creation account all over again from the beginning. And that isn't allowed. So we have to reinterpret eretz to mean land or territory or property or region or something like that. Now, when the word eretz is meaning that, usually there are close contextual clues. Like it might have a pronoun like this eretz or our eretz, or it might be in construct with the name of a region or a people, the eretz of Havilah, the eretz of Cush, or something like that. Those are where it's clearly in reference to a land or region or territory or property. But when we have just the absolute use of eretz, and nothing in the context indicates it is focusing on a particular plot or portion of the earth, why not just understand it as the earth? Again, the reason the ESV doesn't understand it that way, the reason the content creator doesn't want to understand it that way, is not because the Hebrew doesn't mean that. It's because that creates the contradiction that they cannot tolerate. But let's consider another part of the Genesis 2 creation account that further complicates the notion that this is zeroing in on day 6 or zeroing in on the Garden of Eden. What gets created in Genesis 2:19? Adonai Elohim creates from the dust of the ground every animal of the field and every bird of the sky. Kol Of Hashemayim. Now this is problematic because when we're talking about every bird of the sky, this is not limited to a specific territory or subsection of the land. Even if we want eretz to mean that, Shemayim clearly doesn't mean that. And if we understand this to be focusing in on day 6 or focusing in on specifically the land of Eden, saying that every bird of the sky was created after the creation of the human, the planting of the Garden of Eden, and the putting of the human into the Garden of Eden, creates a very clear contradiction. Because it is in Genesis 1, on day 5, that the birds of the sky, Of Hashemayim, are created. So, according to Genesis 2:19, every bird of the sky was not created until after the creation of the human, the planting of the Garden of Eden, and the placing of the human in the Garden of Eden. And this is where you have translations like the ESV, like the LSB, like the NIV, that decide they're just going to arbitrarily change the b-i-tch at the beginning of Genesis 2:19 and understand it as a pluperfect and say, now the Lord God had formed every animal of the field from the dust of the earth and every bird of the sky. That way the actual creation of those things is placed before all the events that are being narrated in Genesis 2. However, the b-i-tch is not how you form a pluperfect. It only happens when close literary context demands it. And in Genesis 2:19, there is no such close literary context. The academic cases that have been made for reading it as a pluperfect require you understand Genesis 1 to be the close literary context. In other words, it's pretty circular reasoning. You already have to imagine that Genesis 1 was written by the same authors as Genesis 2 in order for the argument to work. And it just doesn't work. Genesis 2:19 is not beginning with a pluperfect verb. But that's really the only other way to try to make sense of the fact that, according to Genesis 2:19, every bird of the sky was created after the creation of the human, the planting of the Garden of Eden, the placement of the human in the Garden of Eden. It clearly contradicts. And so this notion that the Hebrew of Genesis 2, 4 through whatever demands or indicates we have zeroed in on day 6 or specifically on the land of Eden doesn't work in light of the rest of the Hebrew. It's just an assertion. It's just something that people made up because they realized that conclusion was necessary to protect the presupposition of univocality. In the absence of the presupposition of univocality, and in light of the full set of circumstances, the totality of the data, it's very clear that Genesis 2 is contradicting Genesis 1. But let's go on.
So the idea here is not talking about all the plants in general, but specifically cultivated crops that require a person to work a field. And it is saying that in that particular land of Eden, there was no one working the field, so there was no cultivated crops in the land. It is not retelling about the general plants of the whole earth from Genesis 1. So really I broke down three important details. Number one, that it's talking about cultivated crops.
Now I want to point something out. This content creator is going to acknowledge that my point was correct about the Hebrew, because they argued that the phrase of the field makes clear this is a reference to cultivated crops. And that's simply not true. And they're going to acknowledge that the Hebrew is on my side here. But only in passing. They're not actually going to say, it turns out Dan was right, I didn't understand the Hebrew well enough. They're going to glide right on into another argument where they say that when it talks about rain, that always means covenant in the Hebrew Bible. And so, what is the rain that has to do with the covenant? Well, it's obviously going to have to do with the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, and so therefore, this is a leitmotif that cues the hearer or the reader to the fact that this is only referring to rain that is relevant to the Garden of Eden, so it's localized and all this stuff. And, as I've already pointed out, that doesn't really work in light of the totality of the circumstances. But I just want to play that portion where this content creator acknowledges that I was right, that the Hebrew is on my side here, but then just pivots right into this other argument.
And I'm going to go back to verse 5. No plant of the field was yet in the earth. The word there for plant is siach, which can mean a bush or a shrub, but is used to refer to wild vegetation. And no vegetation of the field had yet sprung up. This is asep, and that refers to grass or plants. This is usually cultivated vegetation. So what we've got going on here is an explanation that on the whole earth, there was neither wild nor cultivated vegetation. Why? Because there was no rain, which is how we get wild vegetation, and there was no human to work or till the earth, which is how we get cultivated vegetation.
So Genesis 2 is actually somewhat of a merism. It's describing vegetation that grows wild and vegetation that requires cultivation. And it says there was neither of either type on the entire earth. And that is widely agreed by the overwhelming majority of scholars to indicate there was no vegetation of any kind until after the human had been created. So suggesting that it's all reducible down to one concept of only cultivated vegetation not only entirely gets the Hebrew wrong and entirely ignores half of the description of what's going on here in this verse, but it also ignores the part of the video where I quite explicitly and clearly drew that distinction.
Alright, so Dan is right about basic lexical ranges. Siach does refer to wild shrubs or low vegetation, and it's often associated with uncultivated or arid environments. Asep refers broadly to vegetation, grasses or plants used for food, whether cultivated or naturally occurring. Where Dan goes wrong is treating lexical range as determinative of referential scope. Lexicons tell you what a word can mean, not what it must mean in a given discourse unit. And this is one of Dan's biggest problems in a lot of his points on different topics. He isolates the point in the narrative scope, but ignores the larger narrative scope. You see, Genesis 2:5 does not just list two different plant types. It embeds them in a structured causal explanation that we need to look at. The verse limits the vegetation in view by two things: no rain from Yahweh God, and no human to work the ground. Now Dan does a couple things here. First, he treats the causal explanations or clauses here as global explanatory mechanisms. But the text does not require that. As a matter of fact, when we talk about rain, rain in the Hebrew Bible is not a global meteorological abstraction. It is covenantally and agriculturally local.
So this is where the content creator gets into this whole rain means covenant, means the narrative is localized in scope to the land of Eden. But I bring this up to point out that the content creator has to acknowledge that the Hebrew here does refer to land that is arid, that is uncultivated, that is uninhabited, that is uninhabitable, that is deserted. It doesn't mean cultivated land because of the phrase of the field. Now, they just pivot right into saying, but this ignores the broader context. And then we get the silly rain means covenant argument. But the comment that this content creator posted on Twitter was precisely that it is the phrase of the field that indicates this. Here's what they said. And then when you actually look at the wording here, it doesn't just say no plant or herb, but says specifically no plant or herb of the field. The phrase of the field is a Hebrew phrase that can speak of cultivated crops. And then when you dig deeper, it goes on to say that there was no man to work the ground. Now this has already all been addressed, and this content creator misrepresented what's going on in Hebrew in his comment, which is precisely why I said you clearly don't know Hebrew. And nothing in this video has indicated yet that this content creator has a competent grasp of Hebrew. Because all they've done here is acknowledge that the Hebrew agrees with me, and then, without acknowledging that they were wrong in their initial comment, pivoted straight to, but rain means covenant, and Dan doesn't know this. So we're not actually engaging my concerns.
Come on, dumbass.
We don't seem to be engaging in good faith either.
These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens.
So I'm going to pause here and point out that the ESV treats all of verse 4 as a single sentence. However, I and many other scholars think that the second half of verse 4 is its own sentence, and that sentence runs through verses 5 and 6 and doesn't conclude until verse 7. It's a temporal clause, and what we have in verses 5, 6, and 7 are the rest of the temporal clause and the main clause of the sentence. The ESV doesn't like that, so I just want to point out that what you're reading here is not exactly how most critical scholars are going to read what's going on in the Hebrew.
So Dan is correct that a lot of scholars read 2:4b, the second half of verse 4, all the way to verse 7, as a complex sentence with a temporal clause. What Dan doesn't really go into detail here is that this is related to a belief in what's called the documentary hypothesis. So the documentary hypothesis basically is just a hypothesis that the Pentateuch, the 5 books that we call the books of Moses, the Torah, that those 5 books are not the work of a single author, but rather that it is a literary compilation of multiple sources. Specifically, most argue for 4. Some have changed that down to less than 4. But the general hypothesis is that there are 4 sources, and that a later editor came, and over time they were stitched together as these multiple sources.
So this is not entirely accurate, and this is where this content creator betrays that they're not nearly as well informed about the critical scholarship as they would like their audience to believe. Because the documentary hypothesis has certainly long been the dominant source-critical theory of Pentateuchal composition. However, it is not all source-critical theories of Pentateuchal composition. There are others, and it's no longer the dominant position. And so just because a theory involves J, E, D, and P, or maybe just D, P, and non-P, or some other combination of sources, doesn't make it the documentary hypothesis. There are other hypotheses out there. But apologists usually get pre-digested caricatures of critical scholarship fed to them, along with the antidotes, the way to undermine or criticize the critical scholarship. And so when apologists treat any source-critical theories of Pentateuchal composition as the documentary hypothesis, no matter the configuration of sources and their nature and all that kind of stuff, that's usually a dead giveaway, that they're not actually reading the critical scholarship. They're not directly exposing themselves to what's actually going on in the source criticism of the Pentateuch. They are getting secondhand reports through other apologists what's going on in a way that allows them to immediately try to undermine it. So that gives away that this content creator is not directly engaging in the actual critical scholarship.
God damn it.
The Hebrew word for generation is toledo, and there's a phrase that appears consistently throughout the book of Genesis, and it is, these are the generations of. And we call this a toledo structure. These are the generations of, and then it lists out the generations. It actually divides up the book of Genesis.
Now I'm going to skip over a lot of background information that is not relevant to the actual argument here.
The only other time this word is used in Genesis that I haven't mentioned here is in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, where it says, the generations of the heavens and the earth, or the generations of when they were made.
God damn it.
So you have the heavens and the earth, specifically them being created, the days they were created, or the day they were created. And we see here that it's using that same toledo. Every other time in the book of Genesis, when it's used, it tells us what comes next. But Dan wants us to believe, and those who hold to the documentary hypothesis and split these up as two different accounts, wants us to believe that the generations of in Genesis 2:4 is actually the end of the story and not telling us what comes next.
So most of what this content creator is saying about the Toledo formula is pretty accurate. However, in absolutely no sense whatsoever does it undermine the critical scholarly consensus about the priestly creation account being a later and different creation account from the earlier non-P creation account. The Toledo formula doesn't complicate that at all, nor does the chiasm, which we're going to get into a little more detail about later. But I want to point out that there is one area of disagreement regarding how Genesis 2:4a as a Toledo formula fits into the different compositions of these different creation accounts. When I say that Genesis 1:1 through 2:4a is the priestly account, I'm understanding Genesis 2:4a as a Toledo formula written by the priestly author of the priestly creation account that is intended to provide a transition into what comes after, the earlier creation account. It's part of the weaving of the two stories together. Now, there are a lot of other scholars who acknowledge that the priestly creation account is distinct from the non-priestly creation account, who argue that Genesis 2:4a comes from a later, separate redactional phase. In other words, the priestly creation account was written, and then someone later on was like, we're going to stitch them together, and we're going to use the priestly Toledo formula to do it. And so came in and wrote Genesis 2:4a. I'm actually not mad at that theory. I think that theory makes sense as well. Neither of them is complicated by the observation that we have a Toledo formula going on here. So, let's take a look at 5 commentaries on the book of Genesis, published over the last 6 years, and see what critical scholars have been saying about this. You'll notice that this content creator doesn't seem aware of any of this at all. We're going to start with David Peterson's Old Testament Library volume on Genesis, which I believe was published in either 2024 or 2025. It's the most recent of the 5 that I'm going to look at. And the reference to the Toledo formula here is pretty brief, but don't worry, we're going to get into a lot more detail later. So, we're in Genesis 2:4a. This half verse was introduced as a transition between the priestly and pre-priestly accounts of creation, and as an introduction to the latter. The so-called Toledo formulae, Toledo means descendants or successors, appears 11 times in the book of Genesis, 5 times in the primeval history, and 5 times in the family literature, and once in the Joseph story. In all instances, the formula stands immediately before the material it introduces. For example, the descendants of Ishmael are listed immediately after the formula. These are the descendants of Ishmael. Hence, readers should construe 2:4a as an introduction to what follows, identifying those descendants as humanity. Humans are, in this editor's eyes, the progeny of the heavens and the earth, a claim that is not out of line with the pre-priestly account of humanity's creation, since humans are created out of earth. In other words, yes, this formula is added in order to introduce the pre-Priestley creation account, but it was added after the composition of the later Priestley creation account, either by a later redactor or by somebody involved in the composition of that Priestley account. I think Peterson would probably side with the later redactor.
Now fuck up argument.
But then let's take a look at a 2024 commentary, Genesis 1 through 11, by Ron Hendel from the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary Series. Here's what Hendel had to say. So, notes 2:4. This is the genealogy of heaven and earth when they were created. This half verse is a literary bridge contributed by R, that would be redacted, who combined the J and P sources. The problem was how to combine the pre-creation account of 1:1 through 2:3 with the J creation account that begins at 2:4b. The solution was to link them by a genealogical formula derived from 5:1. This is the book of Adam's genealogy. The formula, this is the genealogy of X, serves as a structuring principle in P's work. In this verse, R extends the genealogical idiom to include the genealogy, in an abstract sense, of the creation of heaven and earth in 1:1 through 2:3. It looks backward at the totality of creation and forward with its temporal formula to what happens next. By this strategy, the differences between the two creation stories are somewhat bridged, and the second story is made subordinate to the first. The listing of heaven and earth, as if they were cosmic parents, may be derived from cosmogonic language, in which heaven and earth did have offspring, but here is adapted to the context. This connective bridge shows how the social idiom of genealogical descent was used to conceptualize the past. The noun toledot, descendants, genealogy, spelled here plainly, toledot, found only in the plural, is derived from the verb holid, to beget, to father. By the rule of patrilineal descent, all of the man's descendants are his offspring, like the children of Jacob, so toledot can denote one or many generations of descendants. The usage here is more abstract, as if history descends from the creation of heaven and earth. Then we've got a 2023 commentary on Genesis 1 through 11 by Jan Christian Geertz from the Historical Commentary on the Old Testament series published by, I'm pretty sure, Peters. This is pretty brief. The connection of the priestly creation account with the scholarly narrator's garden narrative, that's Geertz's way to refer to what other people refer to as the J account, occurred through the redactional toledot formula in Genesis 2:4a, taking up the most important structural feature of the priestly writing and transferring it into the present text. Other formulations reminiscent of the priestly creation account likely come from the same redaction or later harmonizing efforts. These include the expansion of the Tetragrammaton to Adonai God and, presumably, the two-part addition to include all the livestock and L'chol or Mikol Habhema in Genesis 2:20, 3:14. Then let's take a look at David Carr's International Exegetical Commentary on the Old Testament, Genesis 1 through 11, and I believe this comes from 2021, published by Cole Hammer. This is going to be the longest and the most detailed. We've got the start at the bottom of this page, Genesis 2:4a, as a conflational superscription. The unit covered here, Genesis 2:4b through 3:24, represents a superscription, Genesis 2:4a, and first major narrative complex, Genesis 2:4b through 3:24, of a section focused on the generations of heaven and earth when they were created. Though there has been a recent trend to read Genesis 2:4 as a whole, as a superscription, it features an overall doubling, 2:4a and 2:4b, that is unusual for a biblical superscription. And the verse features a move from determined heaven and earth in 2:4a, that means they have the definite article, to undetermined heaven and earth in 2:4b, that would be unusual in a single textual unit. In addition, if Genesis 2:4 as a whole were a superscription, the text that it would introduce happens to begin with a conjunction, the whole siach, and all the shrubs, Genesis 2:5. Most biblical superscriptions, including all such superscriptions in Genesis 5:1, 6:9, 10:1, 37:2, are followed asyndetically by a clause without a conjunction. These indicators suggest that 2:4a is the actual superscription within the present form of text, while 2:4b, the asyndetic follow-up to 2:4a, is the beginning of the material introduced by that superscription. To be sure, the superscription in 2.4a is bound to the material it introduces in 2.4b by inverse parallels. After its introduction, L.A. Toledotes in 2.4a. So this is the chiasm thing that this content creator is going to refer to a little later down the road. But as they pointed out, the fact that it is Ha Shemayim V'Ha'aretz in 2.4a, but is just Eretz V'Shemayim in 2.4b, would be unusual for a single sense unit. The fact that it's going from determined to undetermined, and it's also switching the order, and it's also using different verbs for create. There are a bunch of reasons that 2.4a and 2.4b don't fit comfortably together as a single sense unit composed by a single author. So the chiasm thing really just indicates the Toledot formula is intentionally being stitched into Genesis 2.4b rather than indicative of a single unified composition. That is actually not very likely at all. In this way, the superscription in Genesis 2.4a connects to the beginning of the narrative in 2.4b with an A, B, C, C prime, B prime, A prime pattern. This makes 2.4a introduce the following narrative in Genesis 2 through 3 rather than functioning as a superscription summarizing Genesis 1:1 through 2:3. We see a system of similar priestly Toledot descendants superscriptions introducing the other major sections of the book of Genesis, Genesis 5:1, 6:9, 10:1, 11:10, etc. And this one seems to serve an analogous function. Those other superscriptions frame the sections that follow them as focusing on the descendants, Toledot, of a given figure, starting with Adam in Genesis 5:1 and then continuing with the descendants of Noah, Noah's sons, and so on. The reference back to heaven and earth when they were created helps Genesis 2.4a connect what went before, Genesis 1:1 through 2:3, to what follows, 2.4b and following. More specifically, Genesis 2.4a frames the following narratives about the first humans as about something like the generations, Toledot understood more broadly, of the heaven and earth that were so prominently featured in Genesis 1:1 through 2:3. At the same time, the fact that one must adapt the translation of Toledot in 2.4a away from its typical, more straightforward designation of the descendants of a human figure is an important indicator that Genesis 2.4a is not itself part of the priestly system of Toledot.
You're not gonna.
Instead, Genesis 2.4a is a post-priestly superscription that extends that system backward in order to pose the non-priestly materials of Genesis 2.4b and following as a continuation of the priestly creation account in Genesis 1:1 through 2:3. The author of Genesis 2.4a did this by presenting the following story about the first humans created from the ground and animated by divine breath as somehow constituting the descendants, broadly construed, e.g. generations, of God's 7-day creation of the cosmos in Genesis 1:1 through 2:3. The resulting implication that heaven and earth functioned as ancestor-like figures to the first plants, animals, and humans is a linguistic term that recognizes the role attributed to earth in bringing forth life. Genesis 1:11 through 12, 24, also Genesis 2:7 and 19, while also insisting on the idea that these two entities are themselves created. And then we have the use of the verbal root bara in 2.4a, when they were created. And then we can go to Bill Arnold's 2020 New Cambridge Bible Commentary volume on Genesis. Starts at the bottom here. The expression in 2.4a, these are the generations of Toledot, the heavens and the earth, is the first of the Toledot clauses of Genesis and is the only one introducing the generations of an object, heavens and earth, rather than a personal name. Thus, verse 4a introduces the epic narrative of the Garden of Eden and binds it to the creation story of Genesis 1, creating a layered and complex perception of creation. As summarized in the introduction, we have reason to believe the Toledot of 2.4 was created new by the author of 1:1 through 2:3, based on the older model of 5:1, which probably preserves the original use of generations. The purpose for 2.4a was to tie the new priestly account of creation to the older account of 2.4b through 3.24, which presumably by that time wielded impressive authority. Thus, the older, authoritative epic account of human origins has been absorbed and supplemented by the more comprehensive priestly account of Genesis 1. It has occasionally been assumed that the Toledot clause of 2.4a is a summary of the acts of creation in 1:1 through 2:3, and was an original part of a priestly document. If so, the verse and chapter divisions are better fixed at 1-1 through 2-4a. However, there is good reason to believe the Toledo clauses were independent of the priestly document, as I have explained in the introduction, and that 2-4 introduces the next block of material so that the unit division used here is to be preferred. This approach is also instructive for our understanding of how these two creation accounts are functioning together. While some earlier source approaches tended to dissect and atomize the text, an understanding of 2-4a as an intentional link between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2-3 teaches us how these accounts of creation were intended to sound together. The editor of the final text has produced a continuity between them, adapting and adopting the authority of the older document and creating a new text that is greater than the sum of its parts. They may have come from different authors originally, but Genesis 1 and Genesis 2-3 have been edited together in such an intentional way as to produce a binocular or synoptic view of creation. Genesis 2-3 now takes a second look. So, these are 5 of the leading commentaries of Genesis that have been published, not just in the last 6 years. I'm not aware of a similar commentary on Genesis being published in like the last 10 or 15 years. But they all agree that the priestly account of creation is a secondary, later, independent account that was tied to the earlier non-priestly account of Genesis 2-4b through to the end of Genesis 3, through the Toledo formula of Genesis 2-4a. The content creator is not engaging any of that. They're engaging the conclusion that the Toledo formula of 2-4a was simply the way that the author of the priestly account tied off their creation account without concern for its integration into what followed. And while that is a theory that some of these authors have said was out there, that's really not where the consensus is these days. The consensus is a little more towards understanding 2-4a as a later redactional stitch that brings the priestly creation account together with the earlier non-priestly creation account. Either way, there's still 2 separate accounts according to the majority of scholars, according to the most authoritative and most recent scholarly literature that addresses the question. This content creator is not aware of any of that because they don't get the sense that they're actually directly exposed to critical scholarship. It seems to me they're being exposed to apologetic predigestions of the critical scholarship, which overwhelmingly misunderstand and or misrepresent it.
But there's another point here. I said it wasn't just the Toledo, it was also the chiasm. So what is a chiasm? A chiasm is a literary device that involves repeating grammatical structures or phrases in reverse order. It's also known as inverted parallelism, or some people call it an A-B-B-A structure. And we have this pattern in verse 4. Let's look at that again. It says, "These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens." So you have your Toledo, these are the generations of, and then you have the chiasm, the heavens and the earth, that's A. When they were created, that's B. In the day the Lord God made, that's B again. It's talking about being created, right? So you have A, heavens and earth, when they were created, in the day God made them, talking about being created, the earth and the heavens. Heavens and earth, the A parallels the last statement, which is also mirroring the A, earth and the heavens. And the middle 2 phrases parallel each other, the B and the B. The middle phrase, the first middle phrase, when they were created, the second one, in the day the Lord God made. So you have this parallel of heavens and earth, created, made, earth and heavens. That is a clear chiastic structure. These are intended to go together. It was intentionally put together in a structure that creates parallelism. Now, is it possible that these are 2 different lines from unrelated, contradicting sources, and the editor just put them together to make the pattern? Technically, yes, that's possible. But what is more likely? Was it more likely that this, with that Toledo structure, was intentionally written together to form the pattern, or an editor just found these 2 sources that happen to have 2 different lines that perfectly mirrored each other, to the point that there's even a strange way of saying heavens and the earth, because the first part of verse 4 says heavens and earth, while the second part reverses it and says earth and heavens. And that's not usually the way that heavens and earth are spoken of.
Not usually, but it does occur elsewhere. I think it occurs once in a psalm. But what this content creator is overlooking is the fact that those aren't the only two options. It's not either Genesis 2:4a and 2:4b were composed at one time by one author, or they both pre-existed and an editor just went jackpot and stuck them together. As we've shown with those 5 recent commentaries on Genesis, the overwhelming majority of scholars agree that Genesis 2:4a was composed with Genesis 2:4b in mind, and in an effort to stitch the priestly creation account to the earlier non-priestly creation account. Now, whether that was by the author of the priestly creation account or by a later redactor who was not part of the same school, that's what's up in the air. And again, I still kind of like the idea that it was the author of the priestly creation account, but I'm very much open to the other conclusion as well. So this content creator is not addressing that. But additionally, when they bring up the whole chiasm argument, they've not addressed the fact that the Hashemayim, v'ha'aretz, is also using the definite articles, just as Genesis 1:1 through Genesis 2:3 does, whereas Eretz v'Shemayim doesn't use the definite article. And again, the verbal roots that are used between the two are different. And the names for God that are used are different. And so Genesis 2:4a and Genesis 2:4b are very, very different. It's not just, ooh, look, chiasm. It's also the literary qualities of one are entirely distinct from the literary qualities of the other. And the literary qualities of the other are consistent with the rest of the creation account that runs from Genesis 2:5 through to the end of Genesis 3. And again, Genesis 2:5 would have to begin with the Kol Siach, which is not how the Toledot formula introduces the narrative. Genesis 2:5 is definitely carrying on a sentence that was begun in Genesis 2:4b. So when you consider the Hebrew and the critical scholarship, this content creator is not really addressing the issue and is not making a compelling case that the critical scholarship is up in the night and doesn't really know what it's talking about. What this content creator is demonstrating is that they're not actually directly engaging or even directly aware of what's going on in the critical scholarship. They are aware of, again, a pre-digested apologetic caricature of the critical scholarship. That's what they're engaging. And it just doesn't work when you take everything into consideration. Now, whether or not this content creator makes another video where they go into the problem of every bird of the skies or not, I don't get the sense that they're going to engage in good faith. I don't get the sense that they're going to directly engage the concerns, much less directly engage the critical scholarship. I get the sense that they're going to parry and deflect and evade, which is kind of what they've done in this video to some degree, but more than anything have just exposed their lack of awareness of what's actually going on in the critical scholarship. So I don't anticipate having to respond again to this content creator unless they actually do figure out what's going on in critical scholarship and competently engage the arguments that I presented from those 5 commentaries and the other arguments that I presented in those previous videos as well as in this video. So we shall see. And the fifth for this video has been Wolverine.
I fuck his hole, dumbass. Damn, I was hoping to fuck up and move right here. Suck my dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. Suck my fucking dick. Suck my fucking dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Fucking dick sucker. Suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, suck my dick, bitch. God damn it. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. God damn it. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my fucking dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick. You suck my dick. Now fuck up and take that goddamn pole. Now dick up your fucking... You suck, you stupid motherfucker. You're still a stupid motherfucker. Stupid fucker. You suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, 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 you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You stupid motherfucker. Stupid, 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 stupid. The stupid machine. I just got myself a whore. Suck my motherfucking dick. Suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking dick. I fucked his hole! You stupid motherfucker. Stupid, 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 stupid. The stupid machine, you stupid motherfucker. You stupid fucker. Suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my fucking dick. Bitch, you suck my fucking dick. Kiss that night goodbye, slut. I fucked it. Oh. What a crock of shit. I was fixing to stick my dick in his butt till it came out of his fucking mouth. Puking cum. Both my dick and his fucking mouth. And his fucking mouth. Son of a bitch. He bitch. He bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking slut. That was stupid motherfucker. Stupid, 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 stupid. The stupid machine, you stupid fucker. Come on, you goddamn son of a bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick. Bitch, suck my dick. Suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick. Bitch, suck my dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my fucking cock. Bitch, you suck my cock. Suck my motherfucking cock. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my fucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick. Suck my motherfucking dick. Suck my slut. Bitch, suck my dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking slut. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick. Bitch, suck my dick, bitch. Bitch, suck my dick. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. Suck my fucking dick. You suck my goddamn cock. Suck my goddamn cock. God damn it. Suck my cock. You suck my motherfucking cock. Suck my fucking dick. You suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my dick, bitch. Let me do a goddamn castling, son of a bitch. Come on, you son of a bitch. Come on, you son of a bitch. Yeah, you take that fucking night. Now dick up that goddamn rook. Son of a bitch. Stupid! Maybe not. Yeah, you come on, you motherfucker. Come on, you motherfucker. Come on, you motherfucker. Come on, you motherfucker. Come on, motherfucker. Motherfucker. You goddamn motherfucker. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. That shit's not gonna fucking fly, you son of a bitch. Bitch, you suck my dick, bitch. You suck my motherfucking dick. Suck my dick. Suck my motherfucking dick. You suck my fucking dick. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick. You suck my whore ass dick, bitch. You suck my whore ass dick, bitch. You suck my whore ass dick, bitch. You suck my whore ass dick. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn dick. You suck my goddamn dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn... God damn it. Bitch, you suck my dick. Suck my dick. God fucking damn it.